Hello, everyone, and welcome to Earthing Live. We meet weekly every Monday at 3:30 p.m. to discuss earthing and grounding. Before we get started, quick reminder that anything we talk about here is not meant to replace the advice of your doctor or healthcare practitioner. Please always consult with your healthcare provider before making any adjustments to your medication or recommended health routines. Hello, my name is Jennifer Morris, and I'm Vice President at Earthing.com. I am pleased to welcome back Dr. James Oschman. He will be presenting part 2 of What Earthing Can Do for You. If you have not yet seen part 1, I encourage you to visit our YouTube channel and watch the video entitled Earthing Anniversary, What Earthing Can Do for You. If you are not yet familiar with Dr. Oschman, he has published over 33 full-length scientific articles in some of the world's leading peer-reviewed academic journals. He's published 64 invited articles in various alternative and complementary therapy journals. He's published 6 books, as well as 3 United States patents. His degrees are in biophysics and biology from the University of Pittsburgh, and he's worked in major research labs around the world. He's presented lectures and workshops on earthing and energy medicine in 24 countries. He was a contributor to the Earthing book, and he is featured in the Earthing documentary. So we're very excited to have him back. Time permitting, Dr. Oschman will answer some of your questions at the end of this presentation, but we do have a Q&A session scheduled with Dr. Oschman for next Monday, July 19th at 3:30 p.m. So this will be the same time, same place, and it will be dedicated to having your questions answered by Dr. Oschman. If you have any customer service questions, such as how to place an order or track an order, please reach out to our team at help@earthing.com, or you can visit our website, earthing.com, for further contact information. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's get Dr. Oschman up on here and have him join us. Hi there. How are you, Dr. Oschman?
Fine, good to see you.
Good to see you. I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Thrilled to be with all you people. This is a very exciting project, Earthing, and we are celebrating 20 years. I've been involved in this project for 20 years. Clint has been involved a little longer. And my slides are not advancing. And I don't know why. There we go. Okay, let's celebrate 20 years. A lot has happened. Here I am. Here's my email, and earthinginstitute.net is my web page. 20 years of research, applications, and feedback. Everybody needs to understand the connections between inflammation, chronic diseases, and earthing. This can affect your whole life. It can lead to what has been termed healthy longevity. The alternative to healthy aging is chronic problems that bother you every day and do not go away. I wish everybody in the world could hear this, because millions of people around the world are suffering with minor and major issues that remarkably can be significantly reduced if they get their feet in contact with the earth. In the news, We're very excited about our sports teams here in New England. And Adam Ottavino is a new pitcher for the Red Sox, and people were excited. He has an unconventional way of preparing for games. He's been sensational. He hasn't given up any home runs. He has a very good ERA, and he practices earthing, otherwise known as grounding. He goes out in the field, in the field, in his bare feet for 5 minutes before a game. For I guess, yeah, more than that. He walks around in the grass, and scientists, according to the Boston Globe, say a surprisingly positive and overlooked environmental factor on health. Well, I agree. So here he is, in his bare feet. Here he is at the pitcher's mound. He says he's just trying to let the vibes of the place into his body. Of course, Fenway has a lot of vibes. A lot of history has happened there. So I tell athletes to ground themselves for 15 minutes at least before any event. Why do I do that? Our bodies have batteries. They're called mitochondria. They're very important in our energetics. They provide ATP, which is the energy substrate for everything we do. All of our physiology runs on ATP, our nerves, our muscles, our digestive system, and so on. The mitochondria have always been fascinating to me. I see them a lot when I do electron microscopy. This is what they look like. And there's an electron transport chain. They need electrons to produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So there's a chain of molecules that definitely needs electrons. This is adenosine triphosphate. These orangish things at the end, these are the three phosphates. They are very rigidly held to the adenosine, so the bonds are very strong. They contain a lot of energy, and what happens is when you need to contract a muscle or have a nerve transmit, one or two of these phosphates comes off and releases the energy. Usually ATP goes to ADP, which means one of these bonds breaks. If you fall off your bicycle, hopefully you'll land in your bare feet on the grass. That'd be ideal. There are lots of sports injuries. Um, a good preparation to protect yourself, not only have more energy, but to protect yourself if you have an injury, you want it to heal fast. So here we see different injuries, athletic injuries, uh, very common. Um, Notice the ice on the knee. Maybe that isn't the best idea. Maybe you would be better off with an earthing patch. So here's ice, use of ice on the knee, a cold pack on the sore elbow, and here is an earthing patch connected to the grounding terminal of an electrical outlet. These patches are wonderful and they are very good. If you have an injury, put the patch where it hurts. And the patches come with a cord that will plug in the wall and with a device that will test the ground system in your home. You can have everything you need to sit at your computer. If your feet are grounded and if your wrist is grounded, you cannot get carpal tunnel. So if you think you're getting carpal tunnel working at the computer, get one of these pads, one of these pads. They're universal pads, and they ground your feet, they ground your arms, and carpal tunnel is an inflammation. Grounding really takes care of inflammation. It's good to sleep grounded. Highly recommended. It takes a minute or two to put this on your bed, and you're set for good. Highly recommended. While you're sleeping is the time when your body regenerates, and it's a great time to have plenty of electrons from the earth to help you with your inflammation. We all have inflammation somewhere. Looks comfortable, doesn't it? It is. So these are various ways you can connect. These are the patches. This is a throw that you can put over yourself when you're sitting in a chair or on the sofa. Wristbands, pillows, the device that can go anywhere, really, on a seat or under your wrists if you're at the computer, or under your feet. Um, all good stuff. Flint has made it possible for us to stay grounded all day long. Pets love to be grounded. They love it. You can't get them to get off often. Here's one pet wants his feet on the ground. Here's a person working in the kitchen with her feet grounded. Here's a seat that's ready to go. This is a car seat. What Clint did was he went to a truck stop and he gave away these dozens and dozens of these um, grounding pads for the truckers to use. And he gave them a form to fill out. He said, you can have this for free. Just get back to me with your experience. And they had very interesting experiences. Their vision was better. Their backaches went away. It was incredible. So highly recommended while you're driving. If you need to figure out if you have a good ground, there are some homes that have outlets that look like this. If they're old homes, sometimes a an outlet has been installed that looks like a grounded outlet, but it really has never been connected to the ground. So you need to take the cover off and look at it and see if it has a good ground. And here's the ground wire connected to a terminal. So this outlet is grounded. If it's not well grounded, you can get a rod, which you insert in the ground into the earth and connect your earthing systems to that. In a modern home, all the grounds connect with an 8-foot copper rod that's sunk into the ground. That's a good ground. So you want to be sure this is an ungrounded outlet, a grounded outlet. You need to make sure that it's really grounded. There's a tester. If the orange light's light, you have a good ground. So this is what a receptacle would look like. Here it is again. Good ground terminal. Now I'm going to tell you about how electrons go from the earth into every cell in your body. And I'm going to tell you about these guys, the mitochondria, which are connected with the cytoskeleton inside of every cell, and electrons from the earth can travel through this network to every part of every cell in your body. This is the outside of the cell, the extracellular material, cell membrane, the cytoskeleton, the nuclear matrix with its DNA, and the apical membrane. The Earthing book has been translated into many languages, more than a dozen. And so we've had feedback from millions of people know about earthing around the world. We've had tremendous feedback from all kinds of people telling us about earthing and how it's changed their lives. Here are some of the conditions relieved by earthing. It's an amazing list: aches and pains, cellulite, indigestion, pregnancy, rheumatoid arthritis, tattoos. Get grounded while you're being tattooed. It won't be nearly as painful. Lots of different conditions that people have written to us and said, this has made a huge difference. Thank you for giving me my life back, is commonly said. And the question is, how can all these different conditions be relieved by such a simple thing as walking, for example, on the beach, on wet sand, putting your feet in the ocean, walking in the grass? How can so many disorders be influenced by such simple procedures? There's a common cause for all of these conditions, and it's called inflammation. This is a very exciting area of medical research these days. Lots of scientists are working, medical researchers are working on inflammation. Here's the basic unit of structure in the body. It's the connective tissue. It's made of collagen, which is a semiconductor. It's a triple helical molecule. It's very strong, and it makes up most of your body. It's the most abundant protein in your body. And the collagen molecule, this helical molecule, can conduct electrons, and each molecule is surrounded with a shell. It's called the hydration shell, a layer of water, which conducts protons. They can go in the same direction or in opposite directions. The collagen molecule itself is embedded in this incredible substance, which not too many people talk about. I'm going to tell you about some things that lots of people don't talk about. Um, it's called the ground substance, and it's a reservoir of electrons. And it's made of this incredible array of molecules with negative charges. It stores electrons, and you need these stores to be topped up. So 15 minutes before the marathon, 15 minutes before the football game, the baseball game, 15 minutes before hockey, any type of sport will give you stored electrons that will provide your mitochondria with the electrons they need for the electron transport chain, and they will also help enormously should you happen to fall down and hurt yourself. And athletes get lots of bumps and bruises. Watch a basketball game, lots of elbows in the face and in other parts of the body. Um, it's brutal. And more athletes are turning to earthing to recover from the brutality of their games. Here's what happens if you have an injury. This is Mr. Shoes, who's insulated from the earth because he's wearing shoes. This is Mr. Barefoot, who isn't insulated from the earth. He's not wearing shoes. If you get an injury, neutrophils are attracted to the site of injury. They release free radicals or reactive oxygen species, and that's very important. Um, they are there to get rid of any bacteria, to remove any damaged cells or tissues so that repair can take place. But if you're not grounded like Mr. Shoe here, these free radicals can leak into the surrounding healthy tissue and cause problems. It can coagulate to form an inflammatory barricade. that prevents healing from taking place. Mr. Shoes, on the other hand, his reservoirs are full, his ground substance is filled with electrons, and when he has an injury, these electrons go to the site of the injury and they neutralize free radicals that would otherwise leak into the surrounding tissue, do collateral damage, as happens here with Mr. Barefoot, with Mr. Shoes. Mr. Barefoot is protected. Healthy tissue is protected by electrons from the ground substance. This is the electron transport chain in mitochondria. The molecules are called flavoproteins or cytochromes. They're called cytochromes, which means chrome means light, so they have different colors. And so colored light can also activate the mitochondria. Here's the inflammation hypothesis. It's called the oxidative burst when the neutrophil releases free radicals to the site of injury to destroy bacteria and damaged cells. And that's important. Some of the free radicals attack surrounding tissue, and you get a coagulation forming a barricade. The barricade blocks the healing process. It blocks antioxidants and regenerative cells from getting into the repair field. The repair is incomplete. The immune system continues to try to repair the damage. This sets up a vicious cycle that can persist for a very long period of time and can lead to chronic inflammation and chronic disease. Earthing or grounding prevents this vicious cycle by confining the free radicals to the places where they're needed. The inflammatory barricade does not form. This is Professor Ridker from Harvard Medical School, who wrote a report the same year that Clint wrote his first report. His was in the New England Journal of Medicine, describing what he learned about inflammation. The public is being informed that inflammation is a common denominator to a wide range of chronic diseases. This is from 1924, I think. And this is a very exciting area of medical research today. This is the inflammatory barricade. Professor Selye from Canada discovered that he can isolate these inflammatory pouches, came to be known as a Selye pouch, and it was very useful for research. He could study what happens inside the pouch. It's a wall of connective tissue. It's impenetrable to dissolved antioxidants. You can take all the antioxidants you want, and they may not get to where they're needed. Electrons are the ultimate antioxidants. They can be semiconducted into the inflammatory pouch where they can neutralize the free radicals. This is Hans Selye working with a rat. He discovered the inflammatory pouch by accident. He was about to inject some air into the pleural cavity, into the lung cavity of the rat, and some people, visitors, disturbed him, and he missed where he was trying to put it, and he injected the air under the skin, and this pouch formed. And he realized that that could be useful for research, and a lot of people have done a lot of research with it. This is histology of the pouch, and it is a layer of connective tissue. So here's one of these pouches on a rat. And if you hold it up in the dark and shine a light into it, you can see that it has some fluid in it. And so he studied the effects of various hormones and other things on the fluid buildup in the inflammatory pouch. Here's normal connective tissue. This is a circulatory system. And when you have an injury or an irritant, the tissue that's exposed to the irritant, the vessel dilates, it gets fatter. The cells migrate towards the irritant, lay down connective tissue fibers, and form a thick, impenetrable barricade that prevents the spread of the irritant into the blood. So this is how the pouch is formed. And this is the inflammatory pocket, the pouch, and the skin surface is at the bottom. And it turns out that these connective tissue pouches are permeable to electrons. So electrons can be semiconducted into the pouch and can clear away any free radicals that are present. Maybe the inflammation model will replace the disease model. I looked up to see how many different kinds of diseases there are. Modern medicine recognizes 3,868 different medical problems, from alpha lipoprotein neuropathy to zygomycosis, from A to Z. This is in the Karolinska Institute library in Stockholm. The Karolinska Institute is the institute that gives out Nobel Prizes. And my hypothesis is the disease model will be replaced with an energetic model that's based on inflammation. And all of these diseases from A to Z are related in one way or another to inflammation. Certainly most of them, if not all. Richer and his colleagues studied 28,263 apparently healthy women over 3 years to assess the use of a marker for inflammation to predict the risk of heart events. Cardiovascular events were defined as non-fatal heart attacks or strokes, the need for bypass procedures, or death from coronary heart disease. And this molecule, C-reactive protein, turned out to be a very good predictor for the risk of cardiovascular events. And a high sensitivity test called high sensitive CRP was much better at predicting risk than lipid levels. For example, cholesterol. So you go to the doctor, he measures your cholesterol. It'd be good if he would measure your CRP. You can ask him, please give me an HSCRP test. That's the test that'll tell you much, much more clearly whether you're in line for a heart attack than cholesterol. So research from around the world has demonstrated that inflammation is correlated with virtually all chronic diseases, including all of the diseases of aging. These are the diseases that consume more than 75% of our healthcare budget. And so here are some examples of chronic diseases. The modern pursuit of scientific evidence that grounding affects human physiology and health began with doctors Karol and Paweł Sokol in Poland and Clint Ober in the United States in the 1990s. People will grumble about Clint's sponsorship of the research. It turns out that these people in Poland did very similar research at about the same time and found the same thing, totally unconnected with our research effort. So the research that has come out has given us a fascinating evidence of a powerful and positive shift in the electrical state of the body, the dynamics of blood flow, how to boost our self-healing and self-regulating mechanisms. It also includes helping us with our physiological regulations, our hormonal regulations. So the inflammation disease connection was an earth-shaking discovery. And you can easily confirm this with reference to PubMed, which is the database of the US National Library of Medicine. You can go to PubMed, Google PubMed, put in the name of a disease plus inflammation, and you will see that any disease, there are thousands and thousands of studies, each representing an enormous amount of research work showing a correlation between the disease and inflammation. A 250,000 clinical studies have been published. Most of them took off after Ridker's study in the year 2000. Look at the increase in the number of studies, each being an enormous effort involving groups of scientists with large grants. This is as of 12/20/2020. Another prominent Harvard scientist agreed with Ridker's results. He said, many ostensibly unrelated diseases in virtually all fields of medicine and surgery have a common dependence on abnormal cell behavior triggered by local inflammation. For example, if you look up the studies on cancer, there's a huge number of studies relating cancer to inflammation, which is why cancer patients are wise to get grounded. One of the most popular articles is an article entitled Cancer, the Wound That Did Not Heal. Sounds like what I've been talking about. So Time magazine, The Secret Killer, the surprising link between inflammation, heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases. Newsweek magazine also had a special, 2005, The Future of Medicine, recognizing that these aches and pains in our bodies are often caused by an injury that has not healed completely. The inflammation cure, MEGS, may turn out to be the elusive holy grail of medicine, the single phenomenon that holds the key to sickness and health. This is one of my heroes, Emilio Del Giudice from the University of Milan, quantum physics group. Living systems can be affected by many agents in many different ways, but these influences add up to modifications of one basic parameter, the density of electric polarization. Electrons are important. I met Dr. Del Giudice at a water conference in London, and sadly he passed away a few months after that. So naturally, the people who are selling supplements use these discoveries to recommend their products. They lay out this accurate statement to support purchase of a dietary antioxidant. Have you ever heard of silent inflammation? This harmful inflammation is the mortal enemy of your health. It can damage your heart and brain, throw your digestive system completely out of whack, make your joints stiff and achy, and even ruin the color and texture of your skin. It's irrefutable at this point. More and more scientific research is clearly showing that silent inflammation is the common link that fast tracks aging and makes us look and feel old before our time. So reducing silent inflammation throughout your body may be the single most important thing you can do on a daily basis to look and feel your best. And they want you to buy their antioxidant, and it cannot possibly work as well as earthing. Sorry about that, you guys. For example, to get the effects of earthing, you would have to eat 500 pounds of blueberries every day, which is physically impossible. So Ober and his team have shown that earthing is the easiest, fastest, and best way of reducing silent inflammation throughout your body. It really works fast. Silent inflammation is not always silent. It can hurt. In spite of the many studies of inflammation since Richter's first publications, the broader implications of silent inflammation and residual inflammatory risk have remained elusive until the work of Ober and his colleagues. So Ober's report in the year 2000 was in a journal called the ESD Journal. You can look it up. This is the link. Grounding or earthing is defined as touching the earth, whether it be grass, soil, sand, or concrete. The surface of the earth has a negative electrical potential. When in direct contact with the ground, walking barefoot, sitting, or lying down, the Earth's electrons are connected to the body, bringing the surface and interior of the body to the same electrical potential as the Earth. In other words, you are grounded. Flint said this in his first paper. My message to you is about the lost connection with the Earth, a tragically ignored cause of chronic pain and illness throughout much of the world. Millions of people need to know about this. After years of observing the healing effect of earthing on people, I know with absolute certainty that most everything going on in the body is different when you're not grounded, when you're disconnected from the earth, like most people today. Most of the people you see walking around today have not touched the earth for a long time. Ungrounded makes you more vulnerable to sickness and pain. The ungrounded state is neither normal nor natural, nor the way humans lived throughout most of history. Bringing the body to the same electrical potential as the earth induces favorable physiological and electrophysiological changes that promote optimum health. These include optimization of circadian rhythms, especially the rhythm of cortisol, the stress hormone, resulting in improved sleep. These changes are a reflection of favorable autonomic nervous system function, a shift from sympathetic or stress to parasympathetic nurturing activation. Extremely important. The many unpredictable sociological, economic, and political events of the 21st century have increased the stress of modern living as compared to earlier and simpler times. As a result, more and more people live day to day in unrelenting states of heightened physiological arousal, stress. These physiological states involve chronic overactivation of the autonomic nervous system. Reduction of stress levels has been quantified in several of our studies, and reductions of inflammation and pain, improvement of sleep and energy, decrease in stress, and a reduction in the indicators of osteoporosis, improvements in peripheral blood flow and glucose regulation. And these are some of the papers showing these things. All biochemical reactions in the body are redox reactions and require electrons. Our bodies are electrical bodies. The mitochondria, as I mentioned before, the powerhouses of our cells, they are important for generating ATP, for protein synthesis, cell division, cell migrations, immune cell activities. So when you get an injury, cells migrate to the site of injury. That takes energy. If you're deficient in electrons and your electron transport chains in your mitochondria are deficient in electrons, that slows everything down. Ober did a study in 2000. They advertised to 10 beauty salons in Ventura County, California, asking for people with sleep problems. People who had tense muscles or chronic joint pain to participate in the study. 60 people aged 23 to 74 years were studied for 30 days. They were randomly divided into two groups. One group of 30 slept on conductive carbon fiber mattress pads, like this one, connected to an earth ground outside their bedroom windows. The control group of 30 slept on carbon fiber mattress pads that were not connected to ground. There was a huge difference. Here's a rod, the end of a rod that's been inserted into the ground, connected to the conductive fiber in the mattress pad. And people slept better. If you have trouble sleeping, you have a lot of company. Millions of Americans don't sleep well. Often they find when they put an earthing pad on their bed, they go right to sleep and have sweet dreams. Ober pointed out from the beginning of time, except for the last few generations, humans lived their entire lives primarily in direct physical contact with the earth, and it's assumed that humans throughout evolution were naturally grounded. Few people are actually aware that most of today's shoes are made with synthetic soles, plastic and rubber compounds that block the earth's healing energy when you're outside. Since the 1960s, this is when the trouble started. Shoe manufacturing has changed from primary leather soled shoes to rubber, plastic, and synthetic composite soles. Many leather soled shoes, particularly thinner ones, have a conductive property. Rubber, plastic, and composite soles do not. The impact of this transformation, shifting from leather, which is a semiconductor, which connects your feet to the earth when you walk on the earth, the transition from leather to artificial materials, rubber, plastic, and synthetic composites, has had a huge implications for our health that nobody noticed until now. We've become disconnected. Who's connected here? The dog is grounded. The little boy with his tennis shoes is not. So we've disconnected ourselves from the earth by wearing these shoes, living and working in high-rise buildings. One of the studies that Dr. Chevalier discovered when he was writing about this is that the higher up you are in a building, the further you are away from the earth, and the greater the potential, the positive potential on your body. Our bodies have become charged with static electricity, subjected to electric fields that create unnatural weak electric currents in our bodies. And we've simultaneously disconnected ourselves from the surface of the earth, which is a natural source of antioxidant electrons. So these may look good, but are they good for you? Probably not. All of these shoes insulate the wearer from the earth. Attractive, maybe. Good for you? Probably not. Barefoot contact with the earth rapidly resolves silent or smoldering inflammation throughout the body. This is accomplished by antioxidant electrons entering the feet that are rapidly conducted throughout the body. And here you will see the electrons. Oops. Well, this is an animated slide that doesn't show up, but the point is that electrons rapidly move through the body and neutralize inflammation wherever it is found. It works quickly. This is infrared medical imaging. This person walked in with a cane, had a grounding patch put on her knees for 30 minutes. And this is the inflammation, the red colors. 30 minutes, it's gone. That's how fast earthing can work. Here's a patch on the knee. This is a person who had what's called thermal amputation. You can't see her fingers because they're so cold and painful. And 4 nights sleeping on a mattress pad that's grounded, the circulation has returned to the fingers, the pain is gone, and they're not cold anymore. So Ober invented a whole bunch of devices to bring the benefits of earth contact into the home or office. And here are some of them. Pad for your wrists, feet, flip-flops with a grounding plug, sheets and pillowcases, bracelets that you can put on your wrist or ankle. All these are very effective at grounding your body. In his 2000 study, Ober measured the electrical charge on the skin of the subjects. This was done with an AC voltmeter with one terminal connected to a ground rod, the other terminal in contact with the body, using a handheld probe or an EKG electrode patch. And he invented a continuity system that tests earthing systems to make sure they're conductive and working properly. And what he found in this study was that people had substantial voltage on their bodies. This is particularly the case in the bedroom, where there are lots of wires behind the wall that are radiating 60 cycle electricity. And that electricity will radiate into your body. If you're grounded, it will have no effect. If you're not grounded, it can make you prone to inflammation and prevent good sleep and good regeneration as sleep can produce. Here's the circuit checker that you can use to find out if your outlets are properly grounded. If these 2 orange lights come on, you have a good ground. In 2020, Dr. Chevalier wrote a paper explaining how anyone can determine the voltage on their body. So this is a nice article where he summarized how to do that. Things like alarm clocks, clock radios, heating pads, all, they look innocent enough, but they're radiating electric fields into your body. You need to be grounded. This is the wires hidden behind the walls in a home that are radiating 60 cycle electricity into people's bodies. And this is testing, testing the pad. One terminal of the voltmeter is connected to an electrical outlet, as shown before, and the other terminal is connected to a probe, and you can see that there's a voltage, 835 millivolts without the ground, And when when the pad is grounded, the voltage on the body drops to a few millivolts, 9/100ths of a volt. And this is from Dr. Chevalier's article. The wellness benefits of grounding are described in his 2000 paper. Muscles relax, chronic back and joint pain subsides, general health improves. Loss of ground contact plays a much larger role in overall health than he anticipated when he started his study. Continuing research explains these observations and have been confirmed by feedback from thousands of enthusiasts from around the world. Several subjects in the grounding study stated that they had significant relief from asthmatic and other respiratory conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, EMS, sleep apnea, and hypertension while sleeping grounded. These results weren't expected, but now they've been confirmed. The cytokine network regulates the cells of the immune system. 100 different molecules enable these cells, macrophages, eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils, T cells, mast cells, B cells, to communicate with each other to take care of inflammation. And this has had enormous significance for our current pandemic. One of the suspects in the pandemic is one of the cytokines called interleukin 6, IL-6, you see here. It's an amplifier. Amplifiers are not good because they create a positive feedback loop. When things get bad, they get worse, faster. And that seems to be what happens when the virus affects your lungs. So here's the virus affecting the lung tissue, creating inflammatory signals, signaling the immune system to attack. You get a cytokine storm, lots of different immune cells creating chaos. The outcome is acute respiratory distress syndrome, multi-organ failure, hyperinflammation syndrome, and if you can't stop it, the patient dies. We made a guess. We guessed that grounding patches above the lungs might help, might keep people out of the ventilators and keep them off oxygen. That was based on previous experience that respiratory distress is relieved with grounding patches. So we made a guess that the patches would help with preventing and recovering from coronavirus infections, published in August 2020 in an international journal, Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. There was confirmation from Iraq. And what happened in Iraq is a scientist, Professor Musa, at the medical school in Basra, Iraq, did a study of actual patients. And he found that grounding, earthing, was extremely effective in stopping the cytokine storm and all the symptoms from the pandemic. Roger Applewhite did a study that confirmed that earthing can reduce body voltage from surrounding fields. He used these conductive patches to do the grounding. Each method, he used the patches and he also tried conductive bed pads. Each method reduced the coupled 60 hertz voltage by a factor of at least 70. And this was published in the European Journal of Bioelectromagnetics. And here are some of his results on the reduction of electric field. This was confirmed by Richard Brown from the Human Physiology Department at the University of Eugene in Oregon. Again, the voltage after earthing was decreased by a factor of 58. A huge effect. This was a study of premature infants who are very sensitive to inflammation. This was done at the Children's Hospital in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The grounding had a potentially life-saving benefit. These premature infants are at risk for different kinds of respiratory ailments, and the grounding made a big difference. The original study that Clint did in the year 2000 was replicated and published in 2004 by Dr. Ghali and Dale Teplitz. They published in a peer-reviewed medical journal. Dr. Ghali thought that this would not work. He was very suspicious. He found that earthing really worked. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone, and it also regulates all kinds of processes throughout the body and the immune response. It has a very important role in helping the body respond to stress. The rhythm of cortisol was affected by earthing. So there's details about the study. I won't get into it too much. Here are the results before earthing. You can see that a lot of patients, their cortisol rhythm was high, increased during the night. You can't sleep well if your cortisol rhythm is out of kilter. And you can see that the cortisol rhythm smoothed out, much better sleep. And very important study confirmed by Dr. Chevalier and Dr. Sinatra. Dr. Sinatra is an MD, a well-known cardiologist. Improved autonomic turn zone, very important. Study done in 2013 showed that grounding the body reduces blood viscosity, reduces the clumping of red blood cells. You can see a video of the red cell migration in an electric field at this site. And this is the study. This is the reference to the study. My time is running out. So if there's a burning question, I would love to hear it. I hope you remember your questions and that you'll be ready next week to ask your questions. I look forward to that.
Thank you, Dr. Oschman. That was great. And as Dr. Oschman said, we will be back next week. So have your questions ready, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time on Monday. Thank you very much.
I thank all of you for listening and look forward to questions.
Yes.
Next
And
week.
if you not done so already, be sure that you follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter and YouTube channel. You'll be able to stay up to date on webinars, sales, and new product announcements. Also, remember you can watch the Earthing movie and all past webinars on our YouTube channel. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Oschman. You guys have a good evening.
You too. Thanks. Oh, good. Somebody thinks there's lots to think about.